All right. All right, y'all. What's up? What's good? What's happening? Welcome. Good afternoon. Welcome to How We Get Free Sundays. This is a twice monthly meetup where we have alternate dialogue on an anti-oppression topic. So on every first Sunday, we have an alternate dialogue on the anti-oppression topic that I bring. And every third Sunday, we have an alternate dialogue on any type of topic that we source together as a group. And typically things going on in our world, in the world, socially, politically, that we want to have some alternate dialogue about. In terms of our anti-oppression resource, I'm sorry, I say every first Sunday we have dialogue about an anti-oppression resource, and I bring a summary based on some work that I've done. Um, this body of work that I've created called the theory of indivisibility. We've been working through that during these first Sunday meetups, and I'll bring that what we're going to be dialoguing about today here in a second. But before I do, I just like to give everyone a chance just to check in with how you're feeling today and where you're zooming in from. How's your energy levels? Just anything you want to share, how you feeling. Just a brief check-in and give everyone a chance to get their voice into the space and to hear from each other before we start and to greet each other before we start. So let's just jump in. Anyone could jump in at any time. Again, with your name, where you're zooming in from, when I say your name, how you like to be addressed on this Zoom, if it's different than what you have here. But yeah, and then how you're feeling for the day. How's your energy levels?
Hey y'all, it's Erica Plants. I just go by Erica. I'm clicking in from South Florida today.
Welcome, Erica.
Hey, I'm Cynthia in Lawrenceville, and I'm doing pretty good today. I'm a little tired, could use a little power nap, but other than that, I'm good.
Definitely can relate to the power nap. Welcome, Cynthia.
I'll jump in there. Hey, y'all. I'm Mildred. I'm checking in from Stockbridge. I'm doing pretty good this afternoon. Had to check the clock. This afternoon, doing pretty good. Even though it's a little gloomy outside, still in good spirits.
Awesome. And that's Stockbridge, Georgia, and Cynthia was Lawrenceville, Georgia, both in the metro Atlanta area. Big still, where you zooming in from?
Oh, I thought I had already went. I'm sorry. I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and it was a beach day for me today. It's raining now, which we definitely need the rain, man. We y'all need to send some of that rain that y'all got up here down here. We need
Man,
it
we got a
bad.
lot of it. All right. How you feeling today with all the rain and your beach plans getting changed? How you feeling?
No, I feel good. I mean, I got my beach time in. I feel
Okay.
I feel good today.
Cool,
Better
cool,
than normal.
cool, cool. So I was in Apalachicola, Florida, which is on the Panhandle. I'm
Mm,
not sure if you've heard of it. You were Erica Plant, so I'm not sure if y'all know about Apalachicola, but that's where my dad's from.
mm,
I was just there last week and had a few beach days on this island called St. George Island down there. Real small town, real small oyster town on uh
mm,
on the Gulf. But I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but currently living in Douglasville, Georgia. And but yeah, I have family, in Florida. I used to go every summer. So but it's good to be with you all. Oh, and I'm feeling and I'm Sunjata, both Sunjata. My first and last name are pronounced the same, even though they're spelled differently. But you all can call me Sunjata. And I'm feeling tired, y'all. I'm tired, but pushing through. Like Cynthia said, I'm gonna get me a power nap in today. And but pushing through and excited to be here with you all. So let me see here. One of the things that I typically like to do on these first Sundays is a spotlight for like someone, especially folks who are new. This is my first time seeing Erica, and uh, you go by Big Still or Malcolm? What do you prefer?
Whichever one. You know, if you want to feel better about calling me Malcolm, because some people have an issue with saying Big still. So if you feel like calling me Malcolm, I'm fine with that.
All right, all right. I don't mind calling you Big Steel. That's your what you go by, and your brand. So I don't mind. So but yeah, so one of the things we like to do when it's folks, first time joining this particular cause, do like a spotlight. You don't have to do it because I'm telling you last minute, but if either of you are open to like hopping into the spotlight, and the purpose of it is just giving members a chance to get to know each other. So we've done these several times with different members where they'll jump in and we just ask them questions, getting to know you type questions. And a lot of even beyond the folks that are on the Zoom right now, a lot of folks watch the recordings that are part of the collective, and just give them a little chance to get to know you a little bit better. So um, we might have a time for both, just depending on how long it goes, but or at least one of y'all open to jumping into the spotlight. Okay, Erica. Erica plants is down. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. So
Hey y'all. I'm Erica Plants, Gardening Under Influence. I teach people how to grow with what they got. I also own Plant and Heal, aka blackownedseeds.com. And then I'm the one who hosts Growfluencers on Saturdays through my own platform, Plant and Heal. So yeah, it's nice to meet y'all.
it's nice to meet you too. What part of Florida are you in?
Right now I'm in Fort Lauderdale, Broward area.
Okay.
But usually I am all over because I'm out of Georgia. I'm out of coastal Georgia.
Okay. Cool, cool. And I mean, so y'all in the same area. Y'all connected by any chance? Y'all collaborate? You and Big Steel?
We do.
Yeah,
I
it
leased the
is.
property from him for my nursery. So yeah.
That's dope. Dope. Okay. I always got questions. I'll pause to see if anybody else want to ask Erica. Well, no, I'll wait. I'll wait. Anyone else want to jump in and ask Erica a question, a spotlight question?
Yeah, I'll jump in with a question. Because hi, Erica, I've ordered from you before, and I was just wondering, like, how long have you had Plant and Heal, and kind of what got you started with that business?
So I've had Plant Heal for 3 years as of last month or 2 months ago. I got in that business partially today. The reminder was my sister. She was murdered 5 years ago. It made national news out of Houston, and her favorite color was yellow. And so I'm already growing. I had just submerged myself into gardening the year before. And then when that happened, I turned to the soil for healing. And that's why my business is you plant and you heal, regardless of if you heal yourself, you heal the environment, some pollinators, whatever. If you plant something, you're definitely going to heal something. Um, but I started with this banana, y'all, and the banana just kept going. Now Big Steel feeds the world with those bananas. And it didn't click to me until like last month that those are Brianna's bananas. So seeing that picture today really signifies that. Like I'm going to do a post later, but also just I healed my body. That first summer of doing that in 2019, I accidentally lost 65 pounds. I had no ass, I had no titties. Like my feet went from a size 9.5 to a size 6 youth. My wedding ring went from a 9.5 to a size 7. Like I literally shrank, and my ADHD diminished so much. And y'all, so when COVID hit, and they were like, we're gonna be in the house. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna make my house my oasis. And I was all in. So yeah. But we've been here officially 3 years. The banana post went viral on TikTok back then, and they started asking me to sell. So I had to do research, and we started from there.
Wow, that's dope. What's up, Costco Jones? Welcome. We're doing a spotlight with Erica, where we're just asking, getting to know you type questions. Um,
And thank you
and,
for buying from me.
yeah,
You're
yeah. So
welcome. Thank you.
anyone else want to ask Erica a question?
Yeah, I was just listening, bro. I didn't want to jump in asking too many questions. I just came in and listened, just trying to get a feel for what was going on, you know.
Cool. Cool, cool. Yeah, I'll do a quick recap on what we're doing once we finish with the spotlight. But welcome, glad you're here. Anyone else want to ask a spotlight question of Erica?
Oh, y'all, by the way, today is the last day. Seats are 50% off. I wasn't coming in here to shamelessly plug either. Lawrence asked me at the last minute to pop in, but yeah, they are 50% off right now. There's
Cool,
even like the soursop seeds that are usually $7 or 3.50.
cool, cool. I'm glad you popped in. And definitely anything you want to share that, in between others asking questions. I want to know, like Erica Plants, is that like your social media handle, your brand, or is that
Well, my business is registered as Gardening Under Influence LLC in both Florida and Georgia. That is it. Because again, you go outside, you're gardening under like a completely different view, influence. Like the soil has Prozac and all in it, and the sun is good energy and fresh air and all. So that is the name on all the platforms. But Erica Plants is my name because I'm going through a divorce, and we can considering two husbands and a daddy. I just decided I didn't want to be named after no men no more, so I just chose plants.
okay?
Just
So you made that legal? You're making that your legal
I'm
last
I'm
name?
wrapping up the divorce now. It will be legally my name soon, and I've already just
Ah,
switched over. Yep.
congrats, congrats. Yeah, yeah, and I can relate because I changed my name. Sunjata
Yeah.
Samantha is my
I
chosen
want
legal
something that's
name.
just me. Yeah. So
That's dope. That's dope. I appreciate you taking ownership of an agency over your identity in that way.
yes, absolutely. Look, absolutely. Like, I just don't want to, and especially as I grow into this next area. And anybody who needs business advice or resources, y'all pop in a Growfluencer. We're about to start posting like the notes because we cover such a vast um, majority of these things. But one thing I would tell everybody to hone in on right now is your farm numbers. If you don't have your farm number, go get it now. But when I say they changed all the verbiage under Trump and 45 and 45.7 recently, and so it's really wording it in a different way where then it's the $1,000 and they want receipts, and then more than just the receipts, they're going to then count it based on your acreage and head per cattle, which is something that apartments could never do. And so yeah, if you don't have it, it is time to get it before it becomes too stringent and they actually have training behind them to decline you.
Mhm. Can you say more about Growfluencers? What's that all about on Saturdays when that pops up? What are y'all doing
Okay,
on?
so Growfluencers is accountability check-in. We've done over $1 million now in the last 2 years as a group. We check in on Saturdays. We start off the first Saturday of the month talking about our goals. The last Saturday of the month, we wrap up with our wins for the month, the quarter, the year, whatever. Um, Everybody's in there from different backgrounds, whether you want to open a garden, you want to be a nursery, you want to be a farmer, or you just want to be a better mom or drink more water. Like, we help you grow in all these aspects. We have all these specialists from various backgrounds and expertise, and we all just pop in when we can. So you have like Dr. Kelsha, who just finished arguing I think her dissertation and defending it successfully, and she did her whole thesis and all was on Black women veterans in agriculture, like, and ate down on it and did the studies and pulled all this stuff because it was that important to her. And if you know anything about veterans, they're not really the most receptive to talk about anything, and especially in this climate right now. So all of those layers go into it. But we have ones who are keynote speakers, and so her goal is to eat a keynote every month. We have Derek, who started off with "What was me," and the market is not for him. And if y'all know anything, last year Derek cleared almost $450,000 on other people's backyard lots across Harvey, Louisiana, and now has employees, retired his wife and himself, among other things, and all tax free again on other people's property. So we sit down, we talk business strategies, we talk angles, we give you the education, we show you the scholarships or the grants and all. We sat down as a group and did DFAP. I gave classes on mask, which I just received my second payment from mask, and that was another $8,000. So if you tap in, you can get the resources because they're coming from such a varied angle and background of tools.
Okay, that's what's up. So basically, anyone who wants to be in that grower type business area or making money from doing the things,
Or
that.
even if not making money, like even just growing your community or your stakeholders, like even Lawrence and Top, like it's not just a financial thing, but somewhere in there, we do got to make a living while we're feeding our communities or, you
Mhm.
know, so in that way, yeah. So anything of that
That's
nature,
dope.
just pulling it off.
That's dope. That's dope. And how long? Well, I'm sorry. Anybody else got a question? Like I said, I can always come up with questions. Anybody else got a getting to know
And
you
y'all can
question?
find that if you go to plantandheal.com, aka blackownedseeds.com, you go down to the Growfluencer tab. It's the link goes straight to it every Saturday. It's 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
How long you been with Collectively Sustainable? My last question. How long you been with Collectively Sustainable, and how did you find us? You're on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute, Erica. You're on mute.
Oh, dang. Okay, so I've been down with the club since I don't know. I found Lawrence years ago when he first started popping up on Food System Fridays, and so
Got
I've
it.
always been hearing one way or another, even on Farm Fresh 247. It was offering classes and seeds and all way back in the day, like '03 or '22, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been here.
Nice, nice. And this well, it's a pleasure meeting you. Pleasure meeting you. And for the first time. All right, y'all. Well, thanks for hopping into the spotlight, Erica, on the spot. And it's definitely nice meeting you. I see your girlfluencers, you know, notification coming through the group chat. And so it's nice meeting you for the first time and learning more about all the amazing things that you're doing and the ways that you're helping others. It's so dope. And all right, y'all. So once again, this is How We Get Free Sundays, and every first Sunday we have some dialogue about a anti-oppression liberation topic based on a framework and a body of work that I created called the Theory of Indivisibility. And my whole thing, I've known Lawrence since 2018. We've been rocking and we've been connecting and we've been collaborating on different projects since then. Him and Ashley and I. And my whole thing is understanding this body of work I'm talking about called the theory of indivisibility is understanding, why human beings in general, why we arrived to this point in our evolution where there's so much divisiveness, why there's so much polarization, why there's so much environmental degradation, why there's so much, oppression, etc. And I just did a ton of research on that, and I've written about it, I've podcasted about it, and basically what I do is I take a systems thinking approach to all of these things, where understanding the root cause of the various issues that we face in society and how it's tied to conventional long entrenched systems like patriarchy, like religion, like capitalism, like ownership, like power over, like education, like all these different systems that make up our world. I've done the research to tease out like how those systems have oppressions embedded in them, as well as what we can transition to walk away from the harms within those systems. So my work isn't about fighting. It's not about fighting the systems. It's about creating the new and living into, what's next. And collectively sustainable and all the work that all of us do in our capacities within, this platform, those are what I call like next system things. But with that, there's a lot of things that we've been indoctrinated with growing up that we still need to unlearn if we're truly going to walk into creating a new and creating this new reality for the next generations to come. So we've already been doing the work in terms of, everything that's been laid out with collectively sustainable and all the things that everyone does, but my angle in all of this as a lighthouse is bringing my research that I've done, to this group, to this collective, and having dialogue about it so that we can kind of shine a light on some areas that we all can still evolve and grow and maybe unlearn some things, et cetera, so that we can show up as our best selves and that we're healing in all the ways. So that's what How We Get Free Sundays are all about. It's about liberating our minds, liberating ourselves so that we can continue to show up in our communities in ways that, bring forth that liberation. So, so let's get into it, y'all. So for today's topic, I'm gonna drop a link in the chat, but we're talking about religion, y'all. We're talking about religion, and I have a summary of my latest I'm sorry, a summary of an episode from the podcast, which was talking about the current complexities of religion. The previous time that we talked about this here on How We Get Free Sundays, we talked about the evolutionary origins. I got into the science of how religion evolved into human societies, et cetera. And we had some dialogue about that. And today we're going to dialogue about some of the current complexities. And basically, what I did was I just created a quick summary of the episode. I'll share my screen as well. So we got a quick summary of the episode, and you'll see at the top of the doc, if you want to go listen to the whole episode, you can click that link. You can go listen to the whole episode. But here's a quick summary. And I'm just going to pause for a couple moments, give everyone a chance to read it. And then I have some discussion questions under there that we can kick off the dialogue with. Any questions before I pause? Anyone got any questions? Y'all tracking? You following me so far? All right. And if you can't see it for some reason, you can't access it, let me know and I'll read it aloud. All right. So now that everyone's had a chance to look at that, we're gonna move to the discussion prompts, and we're gonna have this. I'm sorry, the discussion or dialogue prompts, and we're gonna have it in the spirit of dialogue. So every third Sunday, I facilitate a more structured dialogue process. I'm not going to do this one that way. I'm just gonna ask that everyone show up in the spirit of authentic dialogue, and basically what that means is that we're listening to understand. We're activating our capacity for tolerance, meaning it's okay to have different, opinions and perspectives, no judgment. Everyone's perspectives are valid because it's based on your own lived experiences. And when someone has maybe a perspective that challenges yours, you could just, get curious and ask questions. It doesn't mean we have to agree with each other, but we're just showing up being curious, asking each other questions after we share our perspectives and just learning from each other. We're not trying to change each other. We're not trying to change anybody. We're just learning from different perspectives. So everything that you see here, you don't have to agree with it. This is just, based on, again, a quick summary of that episode and what I learned and what I feel in my journey. Um, so yeah, we can just jump into it. Looking at the first discussion prompt, which is, in what ways has organized religion upheld patriarchal values in your own life or community? And how have you responded to that influence? And we already talked about patriarchy. We had some dialogue about patriarchy, a few sessions ago. But if anyone wants to ask any questions about the meaning or how I hold or anybody else holds any of these terms or anything, that's all on the table in addition to the discussion prompts. You can go somewhere else with it too if we need to. Anyone want to jump in and share some thoughts and perspectives based on the first discussion prompt or just what you read in general?
Okay, so for me, what one way that I would say patriarchy in religion has I've seen played out is the whole women can't pray over men. And so that and the way that in some churches or the energy is that if the church is led by a woman, that it's not under good leadership or anything of that. And there's times where I think that trickles down into the workplace, even when they don't say it. So yeah, that's the only one I could really think of at this moment.
How have you responded to that influence when you noticed it?
It all depends on the context. To me, I haven't responded. Listen, what you do in your house is what you do. And if that's what you believe in, it's what you believe in. I'm an army brat. So everybody, like, down to if they take their shoes off at the house or walk in with fresh socks or whatever, is different. Look, you're going to operate your house how you see fit. And we tend to our own gardens.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Erica. Anybody else want to jump in on this prompt?
Yeah, I'll jump in, man. I kind of piggyback off what Erica just said. Definitely, leadership and patriarchy in the household, outside the household, is definitely one of the big things that I kind of pick up on and noticed a lot. Um, it's hard to ignore it being a man and hearing a man kind of diminish a woman's capabilities just because of that. So I tend to kind of ask questions, kind of lean into it, or, like try to kind of pick their brain to see why they think the way they think. It usually stems from nowhere. It's out the blue. It's embedded in us. Um, but yeah, that's one of the big things that I see, especially when it comes to the household. The head of household, the decision maker, all that stuff is embedded in religion to be the male oriented, male driven kind of position. And I always ask myself about that because I was young seeing my mom. I hope these earbuds for y'all. I was seeing my mom really manage the home and the bills and the children. And my dad went to work, true enough, good man as far as just working, but it was like leadership. It was like that you're not really the leader. And I was just like, how? Why isn't she the one making all the decisions? If she's really doing it behind closed doors, why is she doing it in public? And it really just bothered me a lot. So I challenged it with my own lifestyle and how I live and how I show up in places, and really understanding that it has nothing to do with your gender as far as your capacity. And I just kind of adopted my own way to kind of treat leadership positions. Never really kind of enforcing it in other people's households, but kind of if I'm in the right space, I question, I'll probe, I'll ask. But that's about it for me.
Dope, dope. Thanks for sharing. So I want to pause there, y'all, just to open it up. Like, anyone want to ask any follow-up questions of Lawrence or Erica before someone else shares a perspective? Any curiosity questions, clarifying questions, empathetic questions of Lawrence or Erica before we continue? All right. Anybody else want to jump in with another perspective?
I will. So, um, I kind of seen it from both sides, right? So, the house I grew up in, my dad was a lion. Like his word was law, right? My mom was submissive. She did help though, but she wasn't the leader though. Like and maybe if he would have probably listened to him, maybe he wouldn't have made some of the mistakes he made. And also too, living with my aunt and my uncle for 2 years, she was the lion in the house. My uncle was a preacher. He was the leader, but she pretty much kind of ran things and stuff like that. So I understand it from both perspectives, but I do think the religious or the biblical format is outdated. And it was put in place for control tactics, really, because even in history, because there's a lot left out of history about women. Women have contributed a whole lot. They've
Yeah,
won battles that we don't even get to hear. It's probably so many battles that women have won just off of intuition and everything, having that feeling. And you see where some kingdoms they had a king, but they listened to that woman. And when you look at the game of chess, that queen on that board is a very powerful thing. And when you lose that queen, it hurt. When you go and play in chess, and you can still win without that queen, but it's hard. But when you lose that queen in chess, it stings. You like, damn, what am I gonna do now? Like, because it's certain moves you just can't make because you don't got that energy there. You don't got that energy to help make that move. You know,
yeah,
that's all
yeah.
I got.
Cool, cool. Thank you for adding to the dialogue. Welcome, Celeste. I just noticed that you had joined us. Welcome. There's a link in the chat if you want to see. I'm gonna drop it in the chat again. Or did you already see it by any chance? I'm not sure how long you've been with us. I'll just drop it again. If you want to, I'm sharing my screen, but there's like a summary above this question that we kicked off this discussion with. And if you want to read it, but we're talking about, religion, current complexities of religion, and having some discussion prompts based on that little summary, which is based on some work and research I've done. Um,
Yeah. I wanted to say something.
yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I kind of see, I can see, I've seen both sides of it. Just growing up, I'd say I grew up. I know who my father was growing up, but I wasn't necessarily. He wasn't in a home like I grew up in Virginia. He lived in Atlanta. So he wasn't necessarily in a home, but I knew who he was. So, but I had outside figures, outside strong male figures like my godfather, who was like my great uncle, and like older cousins here and there that were kind of doing, they were like men's men, like and my grandfather like in the military doing things of that nature. So I saw they were very, somewhat chauvinistic and, from a paternal aspect, just as far as the type of they styles of leadership and discipline and things of that nature. But then also just coming up, being, in a single parent household, I seen my mom do a lot, display a lot of leadership and, just basically run a household, so to speak. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like I have perspective of both sides. So I always try to like be open minded to things, or I won't. I'll even in this scenario like yesterday. I would say like yesterday I was walking on campus at Clark Atlanta, and I usually just walk past the little security thing, but it was the security lady was there. She was like, "What you doing here?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going over here." And I was just like, I ain't taking no way. I just understood that it was a woman and she's in a male dominated field, so she's gonna be a little bit more on her P's and Q's as far as just like doing her job. So I didn't take it like, oh, why she bothering me, and nobody never said nothing to me before. I just kind of already had that perspective, and you know what I mean. It wasn't something that I was taken aback by. So I think I try to be very conscious of just the balance and respect the balance because the balance is what helps you to go far. And I think that's something that I unlearned. I would say probably in my young 20s, but I do feel like subconsciously, you still feel that need to, go out and provide and protect regardless of, what I'm saying, if that's something that's just chauvinistic or from a patriarchal perspective, or if that's just a natural order of things, if that makes sense. So it's kind of one of those, how that fits. I think is something that I would say that is that I want to say that you struggle with, but just like where do you step in and where do you kind of take a little bit, take an ear to what you're saying and make sure you don't project that fear on. I'm not scared. I got to go do this. You understand what I'm saying? But I understand your concerns as far as what the potential obstacle could be.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for your contribution.
All right.
This is dope. I'm glad we got so many men on today's session and able to get this diverse perspective. Anyone else want to jump in on the prompt? In what ways has organized religion upheld patriarchal values in your own life or community, and how have you responded to that influence?
I hop in. Peace to everybody that's on the call. For the first 18 years of my life, I grew up in my father's shadow, Reverend Preston. So I had this kind of like unspoken pressure to like overachieve and to do things by the book. And it wasn't until I left for college where I started to really find my own voice because a lot of times I had a lot of fear just like expressing myself or even displaying emotion because it was always shut down or it didn't hold much value to my father. And then going into a male dominated industry such as the landscaping industry, I had this pressure of not being a damsel in distress. So I had to have this hard exterior. Plus, I'm also from Philly, so you have to have that grizzle on when you're out in the streets, period, just to keep yourself safe. So I'm right now as a 30, almost 38-year-old woman, I'm giving myself those spaces to be soft and to be expressive because nobody really ever gave that to me. So I have to take it and create it for myself. So I always encourage women to do the same. Don't wait for a savior. Don't wait for Prince Charming to come and scoop you up. It's something that you have to do for yourself. And then whatever man is around you, whether it's a brother, friend, someone you're in a relationship with, they need to match that energy.
Thanks. So appreciate you, Celeste. And I'm from Philly too, Celeste. I live in Georgia now, but born and raised in West Philly, and been lived my whole life till I turned 28. So then I moved down here. But yeah, I hear the Philly in your voice too. So it's dope to connect with you here. Um, I'll jump in real quick. So I grew up in very religious family. And definitely, and then my grandfather, my paternal grandfather was a military man. So he was like, man, he was very like regimented, strict, et cetera, right? Very much low, very much leader, his way or the highway type of thing, the way he ran his household. Um, so I saw, those patriarchal values and I learned them in the church. And, they definitely had an influence on my life. And but like a lot of y'all said, on the flip side, like I grew up in a single mother household, where my mom, held it down. She still leaned on my dad for a lot of things. He came through, he was present, even though he didn't live with us. But my mom held it down, and I saw there's some strong women. My grandmother, strong women, in my life, a lot of strong influence of women in my life. And I just listened to women for whatever reason. And I always had like, young women at the time, like teenage, middle school girls who were just real cool that I used to hang when I would listen to them. And for some reason, I never really put them on a like I never put myself on a pedestal. I always saw them as my equal, even at an early age. And one example I'll give y'all is that, people started probably when I was a teenager, that's when people started calling girls bitches. And I just never did. It just never felt right to me, and it just felt like it was demeaning. And I've seen it evolve to where now a lot of girls or women, affectionately call each other that term. But it was seen as a term of disrespect when I was coming up. And a lot of dudes would do it. And I didn't do it even when I was around men. Like even when I was around my peers, I still didn't refer to the girls, the teens, the young ladies in my life as that term, and because it felt disrespectful and I just never did it. So I just kind of always had this seeing women and girls as like my peers, as my equals. And I continued to question all these things as I got older. And I now, like a lot of y'all said, I see, I just do. I don't believe in gender roles. Like even in my life partnership, we both have our strengths. There's no like, because you're a woman, you got to do this, and because I'm a man, I got to do this. Like I don't get in relationships like that. I just, I see us both as human beings, whole human beings, fully empowered human beings. And it's like, look, this is what I bring to the table. This is what you bring to the table. How can we collaborate? How can we get things done? How can we support each other, et cetera? So that's kind of how my life has evolved. And I've intentionally, when I do feel any like patriarchal like indoctrination bubbling up, I check myself. I've learned how to check myself. I've learned how to, again, listen to the women in my lives when they tell me to check myself, etc. So that's kind of a little bit of how I've navigated this particular prompt. Anyone else want to chime in on this one before we move to number two? All right. So let's talk about number two, which says, why do you think so many people are disaffiliating with religion today? And how might those shifts create space for more liberatory and inclusive spiritual practices? So this question comes from in the particular podcast episode that I did, that this whole, conversation is coming from, where I talked about how even though I grew up in the church, I eventually walked away because it started to become misaligned with my values and how I was moving through the world, how I saw the world. The things that were being taught in the church, it just wasn't aligned anymore. And, I chose to walk away. So, again, anyone want to jump into this prompt? Jump in on this prompt?
I think it's starting with us being. Unless the lady want to go first, was the lady about to jump in first?
Was anybody else trying to jump in? No, you got it. You got it, Costco.
Okay. Yeah, let me turn my camera back on. I think it starts with well, it's a combination of a few things, right? You get into like a concept of singularity, but I think the first beginning of it is information and the amount of information that's out here right now. So it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, things were so somewhat gate kept. Even if you go back to encyclopedias, you had to have enough money to buy the set. You know what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like it still was a form of gatekeeping, but now you got a free internet, free information all over, to the point where you actually have to verify the information and see if it's credible, as opposed to it not being information there. So I think that's part of it. I think another part of it is also social media and the groups of social media. So you can have a group of like-minded people enabling you if you're wrong or right. It don't matter if you're wrong or right. What your opinion is, it's going to be a group of people that's going to be there, on your side of it. And I think that's also something that kind of helps with things as well. Just as far as it doesn't matter, what your perspective is per se. You can usually find somebody in your tribe somewhere on social media, so it don't matter, like whatever your thinking is. So then you don't have to feel alienated no more if you are somewhat the black sheep in the family or whatever the case may be. So as opposed to when people used to go along to get along. So I would just say those two things right there, just the amount of information that's out there, and then the creation of a new dynamic and social norms being social media. And so from a sociological perspective, you know what I mean, you're not receiving those negative sanctions for not being a part of the normal class. You can just go to the internet for that.
Man, definitely, definitely. Thanks, Costco. Anybody else want to hop in on and give some perspective about this prompt?
Um, One thing that I can remember even as a child, just being empathic, I could feel when things were off. And I would look at both my mother and my father as far as like how they would carry themselves in church and then how they would carry themselves at home. And they were like two different people. So I felt the hypocrisy of the religious practices because they were basically saying, do as I say, but not as I do. So I didn't see so much leadership in certain ways. And I didn't feel safe enough to be able to even ask them questions because I knew you were either gonna get hit or yelled at or some type of toxic practice that's been passed on through generations and a lot of our families. So as an adult, being on my own healing journey and trying to have these conversations with my family, I'm still seeing a resistance to even evolving as an individual, but I don't even see spiritual growth because there's no graduation from religion. They're just living in the cesspool of like their demons and they're just hiding behind, oh, this is just how we are, or the judgment and all this other stuff. And they're judging those who don't necessarily agree with what they have to say, and they don't even want to try to understand. So I'm seeing a lot of differences, and I'm like, that's not something I want to be a part of. If you can't even own your truth, even within your family, and you're putting so much energy into church, but what happened to your family? What happened to building yourself up and healing?
Mm, I appreciate that perspective, Celeste. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I just want to jump in real quick to kind of second both of those constructs and to further like um, agree with what Costco is saying. I believe that just what we're doing here is really powerful because there are other people out here who are saying the same thing. So you don't feel alone anymore. You can step out and find people who align with that point of view. And it's not so absurd to say that these church, I ain't gonna say it like that, but church folks might be church folks in the street and heathens at home. You know what I mean? Or any kind of you know color that you want to paint it in. But I believe to further implement the second part of the question, it helps us because a lot of people are looking for the truth. So here we are. Everybody can find each other that's saying, "Hey, something went right when I was growing up. Yep, my family did this. Damn, yours did it too." Da, da, da. And we're all actively looking for a new system to participate in. So as we stand up and create the framework and start to show people like, yeah, you can come as yourself. Now, like the Bible say, but now for real, come as yourself. You can believe something different. We can act differently. We can have different points of view, but we still can organize ourselves in a loving way and get past it and still really build something strong together. I think this is resonating for people. So I believe that this is kind of like, I call it the theory of the necessary evil. It's like we're literally in the muck swimming in it and finding out that we're in the cesspool and we're all finding shore and screaming for other people to come over here too. So I believe this is just our catalyst to create exactly what we're creating.
Indeed, indeed.
So,
I'm, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Cynthia.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I definitely agree with what you said, Lawrence, and I think that is also related to a huge, just energetic shift. I mean, the whole energy of our planet is shifting, and the vibration is changing, and I think that is helping people awaken at a much more rapid rate. And then another thing that I feel like is really related to this is just exposure. A lot of people are being exposed now because of social media, because of our surveillance state and things like that. So when you're seeing, your religious leader was attending, Diddy freak offs, that might kind of make you second guess, religion at, the foundational levels. And then two, I think a lot of people are starting to recognize that spiritually based religions are connected to the other religions, which I would say our most prominent religion and thing that is worshipped is money. So you have the religion of money, the religion of authority, all these are connected. And I think that people are starting to see that connection and just pull away from all of these religions and understand that um for when you really want to connect back to source, to self, to each other, we have to start letting these dogmatic beliefs and these religious systems just kind of fall away so we can really come back into connection with true source and with self.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Firstly, I want to say thank you all for sharing your responses. All of them resonate. As for myself, as far as disaffiliating from religion, I'm going to speak for myself, not for people. For myself, growing up in a very religious family, one I was harmed by religion. So I always had like this disconnection because I saw people for who they actually were, not who they were in church. I was able to see who they were behind the closed doors and how that greatly differed from who they portrayed themselves to be in the church and to others. So I was able to truly see people. And then with that, also, as far as me separating myself from religion, growing up in a very religious family, I was always taught not to question. And in that way, not to question things, it was like for me rooted in control and also this secrecy so that one could continue on with such perversive behaviors that were harmful, but not to question anything. So that kind of really pulled me away. And then the other thing that kind of pulled me away was growing up just having certain gifts, and those gifts coming from a religious family is like, oh, you should be a prophetess and use this for the church. But then you also see the hypocrisy in the church. But if you use it outside of the church, then they want to quote Deuteronomy scriptures at you, and saying you're a sorcerer and call you a Wiccan and all kinds of things. But these things never change. As I grew older, they never changed, and they became more pronounced. And it really had me question, okay, is something wrong with me? But no, I'm seeing these things and they're being shown. And when you start exposing people from the things that you see, because you can't really hide yourself from people who can see you, um, you become a threat and they kind of outcast you. So I kind of pull myself away and found God for myself versus God of how religion was being taught. I'm like, well, God is way bigger than a set religion. Why do I have to be a Christian? Why do I have to be this and that when God is in all things? So I really kind of separate and explore who God is to me, and who God is within me, not who God is being taught to me to be. So, in all of those things, because it was kind of that control aspect, really wanting you to lose yourself and your own voice, and there being, for me, my own identity in that. So, that is what led for me kind of pulling away from religion and exploring spirituality.
Thank you, Mildred. Everything that everyone is saying is resonating very deeply.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Big Steel.
Yeah. I don't. So for me, when I grew up in the church as a Christian, um, but I always had questions. Like even with all the stuff that was going on in the church that I was growing up in, how this person was sleeping with this person and getting pregnant by this person, and I'm like, this supposed to be a place of love and everything. Why is this even going on? Like, what's really going on here? So I've always had questions. And as I got older, I started the first thing I kind of started going into was Buddhism. I didn't get deep into it, but I started learning about it. Uh then then I started studying Kemet, and then I got in off into African spirituality. So I've studied so much different stuff. And even now, like Nuri Muhammad has me interested in Muslim. Like I just love the stuff he talk about. He's Muslim, but to me, I feel like whatever your preference is your preference. And we can all learn from each other. Regardless of what it is, we shouldn't be judgmental. I have people when I tell them that I'm in African spirituality. Boy, it's like they trying to convert me back to Christianity. I like, look, no, I like, look, I'm never gonna judge you if you Christian or Muslim or whatever you do. I'm never gonna judge you for it because I don't want you judging me. And at the end of the day, in many different ways, they all tie into each other. They're just different stories. They all somewhat like if you look at Kemet, they laid the found the blueprint for Jesus. A lot of people don't know, but like it all kind of ties into the same thing. Like, I love the African spirituality because it ties more nature into it. Stuff like it ties more to that. And even in nature in general, when you look at Western Christianity, that's what I started calling because Kurt Franklin, he knows how corrupt the Western Christianity is. So he gave it his name. So I forgot what I was at. What I was about to say before I said that. Lost my what's the
You were talking
You
about
were just talking about how they all feed into each
oh
other.
yeah, they all feed into each other. And like in Christianity, it's so much farming stuff in Christianity, and to me, it does not resonate the way it needs to resonate. You know what I'm saying? Like it really don't, like they talk about it there, but when you look at most of our churches, like even in the neighborhood I'm in, it's when I tell you this neighborhood I'm in probably got about 30 churches in it, it don't make no sense. But when I look, how many of them are some of them got nice pieces of land, they're not growing no food. They don't have no program teaching self-sustainability. And that was all through the Bible. Farming, that was all through the Bible. You know, like I don't know, but that's why I stand on it though. Like I'm into what I'm into, and I like I say, we can all learn from each other. The stories can all benefit us in so many different ways because there's so many different lessons in all the stories in the Bible, the Quran, Kemet, African spirituality. It all connects.
Yeah, facts. I talk about in this body of work called Theory of Indivisibility. I talk about tools of oppression and tools of liberation. And unfortunately, based on from my perspective, the Christian church has become a huge tool for oppression and basically just a catalyst for capitalist gain for a lot of the people who start and run them. Like you said, why does one community need 30? Why does one small area need 30? Where folks you know uh combine their resources and collaborated and work together to share and all the things that we talk about in collectively sustainable. You wouldn't need that many, but it's also a business for so many people.
Yeah.
So and it's big business, and it's hard to see where that line gets crossed between church leaders who are doing it to serve their community, versus those who are doing it for that gain. Um, but yeah, that's just one example. And you talking about them not having, not growing food on all this land and just taking up space. It's so many things that I think that they could be doing. But again, um, I see it like all of you all have saying, we've seen all these like tools of oppression emerging over the years, and we've been able to point them out, we've been able to name them, and then we've been able to walk away from them. And that's what I've done. That's what I know all of you, based on what you're sharing, what you've done, you've walked away from those places and spaces that have caused harm or are causing harm towards, something else. So let's talk about that really quick to close things out. Your interpretation of question number three, which is, if we remove power over dynamics and patriarchy from religion, what beliefs, rituals, or values would remain, and which would you want to um, preserve or transform? So, and I think kind of what I was saying kind of speaks to that a little bit in terms of like rituals, right? That will remain. So one of the things that I see as a benefit that churches have been able to do, is gather people. They have such a large platform, and there's so many people who value that community that they get in churches. Um, and that word, the word of God, the Bible, or whatever that stickiness that exists based on how we've evolved as a society. People love being in communion with each other in these ways. So churches have such a you know, and I guess religion in general, no matter the denomination, have such a important place in society and have so much influence. And I would love to see some ritual around something like what you said, still around, being stewards of the land that y'all sit on, things like that, right? Um, really feeding the people and things like that. So that's something that I just wanted to say. It transitions what I was just saying, how it transitions to this one. Anyone else want to jump in though and give some ideas around this?
I can't remember the exact scripture, but a lot of times it'll come to me. And what's coming to me is the scripture about love, love
Mm,
being patient, love being kind, love not being boastful. And that's something I see a lot in the church. And I don't think that has anything to do with nature, because when you take everything away, what do you have? So that's a lot of things that I do. And I challenge those who are still in the cult of religion, because I really believe in holding on to the foundation. I would never reject how I was raised, but now I'm able to kind of pick and pull from what I want. And I see a lot of hardened hearts towards people who are not doing things or living their lives according to the way they see fit. So that's just one of the many scriptures that come to mind for that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. The love elements in there are very meaningful. Thank you. Anyone else want to jump in?
I think there's a couple things. Um, I think the music, some the music and the choirs,
Mm-hmm.
um, just that level, the amount of fellowship that goes on, even in um preparing for the presentation of the show of whatever they're gonna present. You know, I think those things are important. I think the feast, having those feasts that come at certain points in the year, certain times in the year, because that speaks to the harvest. It speaks to being stewards over the land, and then coming together to kind of, also have a little bit of bragging rights and or whatever. Oh, look at these that we grew. Look how they taste. They came in extra sweet this year. We did this, that, and the third. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just things of that nature to, those things that the byproducts of it are, time together, fellowship and spreading love, I think are very important because I think that's with a lot of those things, those are the intended byproducts, but man, we not perfect, and so we tend to corrupt things over time, just like some water on making the Grand Canyon or something, right? So it can something bad can happen over time. But I think at its purest point, that the us fellowshipping together, making sure that everybody ate and singing some songs, I don't think no harm come from none of that.
Indeed, indeed. Appreciate your perspective. Anyone else want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, I
Um,
was gonna. Okay, go ahead, Miss.
okay. For myself, in speaking on the things that I would want to preserve or transform. So, like one of the things for me that stands out that I would transform would be gender roles. I'm more so of a balanced type of person. So, whatever one's strengths, weaknesses are, and being able to identify those, and how can we work together and be more cohesive and effective in relationship, whether it's platonic or romantic. Those things are very, very important because I think today it's been more, to me, in my opinion, it's become more toxic in a sense of those gender roles because I'm a woman, but I also like to work power tools, so that does not mean that that's only confined to a man's job or a man's role. I also like to go and work on cars, though I'm not lifting anything, but I'll definitely work on some cars. But that's something that's not confined to a gender role. And for someone not to be intimidated because a woman is knowledgeable of these things. I do love the aspect of community. I think it was Costco who are I'm not trying to say Costco like the store, but um, I like the aspect of community. I think every one of you touched on that aspect when we talk about like the music and communing over food and just breaking bread with one another. I think there's a deeper root in that music aspect. It's more ancestral. Um, I won't delve into it, but the music in itself, and even like if you've ever gone to drumming ceremonies, it's very ancestral and it's powerful and there's deeper meaning behind that. And then another thing that I would more so transform would be like the tithes and offering. Y'all, like, y'all were talking. I was making little keynotes here for myself,
Mhm.
but I would transform the tithes and offering because right now what we see today is the tithes and offering to me is just like a form of business. So when we're talking about the music and your praise and worship, oh, we getting everybody all mustered up and ready to give their money. Then we got to give a whole motivational speech. We got to get people jumping over chairs and knocking things over real quick. And then we're going to pass that collection plate around because, we've gotten the juices flowing. So people are going to be quick to open up those pocketbooks. I feel like the tithes and offering wasn't meant to be to give your money and the things that you work hard for to the church. For me, when I think of giving to God, it's more so what are you giving back into the land? What are you giving back to the people within this land? And that is what I don't see. I don't see anything going back to benefit people. How are the people healing? Like, why are the people still in the same state? They go here every Sunday,
Hmm.
but there nothing is changing. Like they're not healing. I just look at it like it's a form of spiritual bypass. There's no real change happening. There's no real growth and healing happening because it's very, very deep and it's ancestral. Let's start by breaking that while we're singing break every chains. We got to break those chains, but are you really ready to do the work? I don't see that happening. So that does have to be transformed, And then one thing I will say, um, and I'll say this and I'll wrap it up. Um, when I think of some of the things that have deep, deep meaning, but I feel like has been lost in the translation and just in uh, control how religion is used, I think is kind of I would keep, but also kind of bring back the original meaning to myself. Like in Second Timothy, because I don't throw everything out. Second Timothy, have God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. I feel like we use that a lot nowadays, but we forget that element of power. Like we seek power outside of ourselves, but the power is within you. Like you've got the power to create. You got the power to create whatever reality you wish to have in your life. We always talking about not living in fear, but what about the element of power? Like we've lost that too. Like, are you seeking the power outside of you? Have you forgotten that within you? Like that's something that we need to get back in touch with because you do have that power. But if I'm talking about manifesting things like seeing it before you actually see it, then it's a problem. But no, 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 you have that power. Why are you throwing that out? So I could go deeper, but and I have so much more, but for the sake of time and consideration of others, I'll wrap it up there.
Thank you, Mildred.
Okay, so I'm gonna go and pop in. The two things, in my opinion, that have to be changed is accountability. Baby, if we, at what point do we keep seeing an apple tree bear lemons and we stay in that system ourselves? Like, there has to be a point where you never recognize that this is a dead church. There's no new joining, or that everybody in here is honorary and bitter and all. You know what I mean? So there's those ways, and another thing that I feel like needs to come to it, because the references in the Bible are so much agricultural based. What we have to understand is, if the person who is teaching the word does not understand agricultural law or anything else, then it doesn't make sense. Then you're definitely going to misinterpret something like spare the rod, spoil the child, because you don't have the right contents of the guidance. Or you'll misunderstand when they're talking about the wineskins and why the old wineskins can take on more and you need new ones, but also that new wine is bitter. And that goes back to also that when you change initially and you walk and get saved, that it's going to be bitter. You crave that. Oh, but if you don't understand agriculture, then you don't understand any of that. And I don't feel like that should be taught to you. So I think those kind of ways we need to get back to, but there has to be some level of accountability. And then like, because a lot of the stuff I hear you guys saying, the churches that I've attended don't deal with it that way. Like, even down to tithes and offerings, it's first also stressed that if you're servicing the choir or something, your 10% can be given in other ways than monetary, And so, or if my son says he wants to get baptized, maybe we sit down with the pastor for 2 hours, and the pastor was very convinced by the end of that time that this 7-year-old was racist. I'm usually not comfortable. So there's ways that people have changed those systems, but somewhere in there has to be accountability and also just those things. That's all I have. I'm an omnist overall, so I just think again that they all work together for the greater good. It's just based on your perspective, because if you ever listen to Jesus, Abraham, all of them, it's the same story, y'all. That's it. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Thank you. Indeed, indeed.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in real quick. I just wanted to really hit the two main points. What I would keep, like Costco was saying, is the music. The music, I believe, is that catalyst to camaraderie. It kind of, decompresses. It gives you a spirit of joy. It kind of gives you revved up. Maybe after a long week, to decompress you or to get you prepared for the week ahead. It does either or. I know for one thing, for a fact, for me, I stopped really going to church around 16 because I just couldn't act like I wasn't seeing what I was seeing, and I wasn't going to participate. And I was too beefy to make me participate. So I come in, listen to them tunes. Oh, I'm waiting for that stomp to come on. Once that stomp comes, and then I'm out of that thing. So that's kind of what I was there for, was the music. And I think the music is what we should keep. I think understanding more about how to disperse the monies that come in, like that's the thing I changed. I do feel like it's immoral to a certain degree, unethical to a certain degree, to take all this money to extract from these communities, because we know the churches are in the low income, low access communities. They extract and never getting back. I
Yep.
believe that that's kind of where, we're collectively sustainable, even as we do the membership fees and all these things. It's meant to come in and pour back out. And
Mm.
I'm even trying to wiggle in with these 10 by 10 installations. I just told one of our event planners that we need to add in a soul train line in the beginning or the end. Like we got to add in some music and some dancing to go along with it so we can start to transform the garden into the church. Is I believe that's where it was supposed to be, Garden of Eden. So it's like everything
Fellowship.
started there anyway. Yeah, the fellowship. And it's ironic, just throw this in as the last point, that a lot of churches in Atlanta are reaching out to me personally to be a part of this 10 by 10 installation. And I think it's going to be a wonderful resurrection
Hmm.
of understanding the tie of religion in that component to the land. And I'm
Hmm.
sure gonna be able to stand up and say it, because I told him I ain't coming in unless I can talk my talk. So I think it's gonna be a wonderful reform coming in, and I think we're gonna be leading the way for sure.
Dope. 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 Indeed. Well, all right, y'all. That was, man, that was powerful, man. I appreciate everybody's perspectives and contributions and thoughts and voice, man. And I really enjoyed being with y'all today. I think it's a good place to close it out. And yeah, yeah. Until next time, I know we connect in different ways all throughout the week in the Heartbeat app. So I'll see y'all where I see y'all. And we'll chat it up soon. Peace, y'all.